was the role of the religious right, the Christianity, you know, because not only the riches and the resources, gold, but the possibility of taking a native population that you may find and converting them to the religion of your society, Christianity. That was a big hotbed back then, and I guess, was it natural for you to be, were you just riding the wave of it, or is it something that you really believed in as well?
It was something I just believed in. It's not something I kept at the forefront of my mind.
So is it more of...
It's more like, it was more of, do this. I don't need other people harping on me because of my any religious beliefs or disbeliefs. So just do it, be done with it, and then move on. I already have problems with people with my lineage.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And sadly enough, it's still around today. People, pretty much creating conflict based on race, gender, religion.
Yeah. It's always in a different form. So I'd like to talk about the controversy of Christopher Columbus. I didn't want to, but it was very compelling, and it feels like this is a big thing that maybe you want to talk about too, to set the record straight. In my generation, growing up with the history books of, Christopher Columbus in 1492 sailed the ocean blues, and I made a little ditty of it, and the mythology of Christopher Columbus being the father of America, and, which we know now, you didn't hit land in America, you hit the Bahamas and Cuba and Haiti, and, that it was Leif Erikson. So really the mythology of Christopher Columbus, I think over the years, has kind of slowly come apart. And now what I find interesting, and I really wanted to talk to you about this from the perspective of where we are in a modern society where, yes, there's war, but we are more economically driven. We're not driven by religious zealotism or anything like that. But the mindset and the culture of where you came from, there was slavery. There was people who took advantage of indigenous populations, and, that was the way the world worked. Conflict was very prevalent, even up until when you sailed. There was always a war of belief, war of right. So from that perspective, we can't understand from this modern perspective why you would have taken part in what happened when you landed in the Bahamas. Hispaniola, the indigenous people that got wiped out by disease and suppression, and from your perspective now, can you talk about the part that you played in all that? Not from a judging standpoint, just for an understanding of a higher perspective.
You're right, it was common, practice in that time period. So, of growing up around it, don't you think that you would be more likely to, practice it or condone it than you would to deny it? Because, it was common things back then. So it's, even though it is, pretty bad with slavery and, pretty much a lot of death of the indigenous, but even now in the modern world, you still have your own, variants of it as well.
Well, it's not a lot less brutal, where you're not slicing off someone's hand because they don't meet their gold quota, and,
No, but you are still as hateful.
Well, I would think so, yeah. And it's easy to judge from this perspective on the brutality of that. But if you're living in that culture, you're kind of saying indoctrinated with it, but it doesn't seem out of the ordinary, right?
Right. And unless you're actively thinking on it, you will not see any problems with it. It's it's like someone who's been, taught from, birth that a certain thing that's illegal is okay, and they'll grow up, doing it without any guilt because they were taught it's okay.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it makes it any better in the end. So,
Right.
of course, that happened, and now, everyone basically is, you know, damning my, that life because of certain actions I did.
Well, it's easy to judge from a perspective of distance and time. That's why this felt like it was something that maybe you wanted to not clear your name, but to share a perspective on that life. I mean,
I explained why I, was more or less able to, put up with it, but it doesn't make it any better in the end. So there's nothing really left to be said on it. I mean, I could explain, theories until the bodies fall asleep, but it won't matter in the end because what's done is done.
right.